We know it's Christmas time. Well, duh, right? There's Christmas music played. Everywhere you go, there's Christmas music. There's decorations everywhere. Like even, recently we've been some places out of town, other towns other than Statesville, and there's decorations and there's preparation being made for the time that we celebrate Christmas. There's people are wearing their Christmas mask. Have you seen that? I mean, it's like walking decorations. Soon there's going to be ugly mask, ugly Christmas mask. And so the ugly sweater thing. We're going to do the ugly mask thing. Well, that was supposed to be funny, but anyway, it wasn't too funny. There's toys in every store, decorations up everywhere. Oh, and it's December, right? Have you noticed? The calendar flipped over. This is Christmas month. So, and we're going to, at the Rock Church, we're going to be talking about Christmas the whole month. We're going to celebrate. We're going to get at my house, we started celebrating Christmas, 2 months ago? Halloween. Yeah, instead of Halloween, I think we did stop long enough to celebrate Thanksgiving, but so we're going to celebrate Christmas. It's a time, I feel like I got cheated out of Easter. Got cheated out of a lot of things this year, it feels like. So I'm going to celebrate Christmas. I want to get every bit I can out of the Christmas season. And and by the way, what y'all think about King and Country? Next week, Jim's going to break out his electric. I'm going to be playing drums. I don't know where I'm going to get some hair, but anyway, we're just kidding. As I walked up here a while ago, and Phil said, "I thought you were going to pick that guitar up and play it." I said, "I wish," but anyway, it's good to mix things up a little bit. So I'm probably not really the King and Country kind of guy. I probably couldn't pull that off, even if I had hair. But anyway, we are going to be doing some different kinds of music. Jim's going to be still doing some music. So I hope you enjoy seeing some different things. I know that some of you don't know me that well, so you don't know that I'm likely to play the Beatles or whatever I think might fit. I'm kind of apt to do that. So don't be offended if I play something that's kind of like that. That's not a church song. We can't use. Yeah, we can. I don't want to do anything sacrilegious, and I wouldn't. Although I have been accused of that, but usually if I do something different, there's a reason why. And Silver Bells, kind of like, there's a line there that says, "It's Christmas time in the city." Doesn't really matter if it's in the city or not, it's Christmas time. And I want to use, there's a story that I want to go back and look at this morning. Matthew chapter 2, verse 1. We're going to look there in just a few minutes if you want to find your place there. Like I said, it's Christmas month, and there's Christmas movies playing. There's people planning their Christmas get-togethers, or not planning their Christmas get-togethers, whichever they choose to do. I'm planning my Christmas get-together. I plan on celebrating Christmas. I'm going to eat some turkey, good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but if everything stays kind of the way it is, I plan on celebrating with my family for Christmas, and I plan on doing it pretty much the way that we always have. So, I don't know, it kind of like, in some ways, is it kind of hard for you to believe it's already Christmas? I mean, in some ways, it is for me. It seems like Christmas kind of sneaked up, but it kind of seems like the year 2020 has been dragging on for 2 or 3 years. For some reason, that's kind of how it feels to me. But we know it's Christmas time because the calendar says it is. And because it has happened for a couple of thousand times now, right? I mean, once it's happened 1,000 or 2 times, we kind of like get in rhythm with it. We kind of understand, well, it's here, ready or not. But how did they know The first Christmas. How did those people know that it was Christmas time? They didn't go in Walmart and hear Christmas music playing, did they?
No.
Pretty sure they didn't. I'm almost positive they didn't. I don't think there was Christmas music or Walmart. So they didn't have that. They didn't have, it had never happened before, so the calendar didn't tell them it was Christmas time. There was other things that came into play and other ways how they knew that it was Christmas. But it was indeed Christmas. It was prophesied. Now, here's one way that they knew ahead of time. They probably didn't have exact date, which we don't really know the exact date of Jesus' birth, but it had been prophesied for years before. It had been talked about before it happened, and well, here's how they knew it was Christmas. If you found your place in Matthew, I normally don't read a text this big, but I'm gonna read beginning chapter 2, Matthew chapter 2, and I think I'm going to read through verse 6. It says, "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem," that's how it was Christmas. That's how Christmas happened. That's simply what brought Christmas. Jesus was born. That's all it took. Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king. Behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose, and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all of Jerusalem with him. And assembling all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They told him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet. Now, if you wanted to follow back and see, the prophet Micah, in Micah chapter 5, verse 2, said this, And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler, who will shepherd my people. Now, I'm going to stop right there. That's how they knew. That's how they knew. I guess, honestly, the Magi, or the wise men, they had heard the prophecy, and they knew by the star that appeared. And there's all kinds, and I'm not getting into the astronomy and the astrology or whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to leave it that it was Jesus' star. I don't know if everything, people say, well, this lined up and that lined up, and it was conjunction of this and that. I don't know any of that. But I do believe that Jesus had a specific star that signified when his birth took place. And the Magi, the wise men, those astronomers, I guess, is who they really were, they recognized that star. Well, now, when we have a Christmas play, a lot of times in church, the wise men came and it was like Jesus was just born, that kind of thing. Probably didn't happen that way. Jesus might have been 6 months to a year old, maybe even older by the time that the wise men got there. So, but the important thing is that the wise men got there. They came and they came for the purpose of celebrating Jesus' birth. So Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 6, this is how they knew, but what did that, or what does that mean? Well, it kind of all depends on who you are. After I just read these 6 verses, if I were to go around this room and ask, what does that mean to you? Even though probably we have similar beliefs and thoughts and ideas about Christmas and Jesus' birth, we probably get some different answers. But what did it mean to those people? What did it mean to the people in the story, the people that we just read about? What does it mean? Well, like I said, it depends on who you are. Let me show you what I mean by that. Christmas time means a lot of different things based upon who we are and what we believe. So I want to look, for example, and I'm pretty sure I've never done this before. I don't remember hearing this done before. We're going to talk about King Herod. Usually we talk about Mary and Joseph and the wise men and the shepherds, and but today I want us to look at somebody else in the story that we just read. And I want to take, for example, King Herod. For Herod, Christmas time was totally different than it was for the wise men. How many of you would agree with that? At least, are we on the same page thinking that Christmas for King Herod was something totally different than it was for the wise men? The wise men came looking. They're like, where's the King of the Jews that was supposed to be born here? Actually, they went to the wrong place, inquiring about where Jesus was. They were nearby, but it meant something different. It meant something different for the wise men than it did for King Herod. So it's Christmas time, and that's what I want us to think about. I want us to look, maybe find some comparison between us. Really, if we can't bring it down to, like if we can't identify with what we're talking about, then it doesn't really do us a whole lot of good, right? So I want us to be able maybe to find some contrast or comparison to what King Herod thought about Christmas and maybe what we think about it, or what we believe about it. So for King Herod, Christmas was a time of, what did we read just a minute ago? For King Herod, Christmas was a time of trouble. Scrooge. Right? King Herod was, I could just imagine, he didn't say it out loud, but inside of him he's like, bah, humbug. He was even way before the original Scrooge, right? But for King Herod, Christmas time was a fearful time. It was a time of trouble. He was troubled because of Christmas. And it says all of Jerusalem with him. Now, I'm sure it was not every single person, but probably a good number of people. And there's different speculation about why the Bible says that all of Jerusalem with him. They may have well been concerned. They may have been troubled because Herod was troubled. And when Herod was troubled, it's kind of like if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Right? Guys? Don't leave me hanging out here. Amen. I walk out on the gangplank, and if you don't go with me, I'm just going to jump off. So kind of like in that day and time, if King Herod the Great, if Herod was not happy, then nobody was going to be happy. So maybe that's why it says that. We really don't know. I don't really know exactly why it says, and all of Jerusalem with him. They were fearful. As a matter of fact, if you look in some versions of this text, it says that Herod was terrified. He was afraid. Christmas brought fear. That might be true for some of y'all because you're thinking, in-laws are coming. We got to get the right present. A lot of things. It might strike a chord of fear in some of us when we start thinking about Christmas time. But for Herod, and I'm just doing some comparison here. For Herod, it says that when Herod the king heard this, in verse number 3, when Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all of Jerusalem with him. Herod was troubled. Herod was known to be power hungry. Right? Do you know anything about King Herod? Herod was known to be power hungry. He was a bloodthirsty king. Herod was well known for, he did some great achievements. I mean, if you go and look up, he was known as Herod the Great, like I said. He was a great ruler. People did what he said. Right? You want to know how, if somebody was a great ruler or not? You see if people are ruled by that person. So Herod ruled basically with an iron fist. He wanted to be liked. He really wanted the Israelites to like him, but he was more concerned about getting things done than he was about really what they thought, probably at the end of the day. So he was known as Herod the Great. He was a great ruler. He was a great builder. He was a great administrator. He was a very wealthy man. He was a gifted politician. So that strikes him out right there for me. That's as far as I'm concerned, That's about 10 strikes against him. He was a gifted politician, they say. He was revered by his foes for his famine relief. You know, I guess he did have a heart in some ways. He tried to help his people. At least he wanted it to appear that way. You know, sometimes that's how politicians do. They do things so they'll look good. They're not necessarily caring about who they really help. It's like so everybody will say, oh, look what Herod the Great did. He is an awesome dude. He brought relief for the impoverished. I don't really, obviously I was not there, so I don't know exactly how that worked. But he was revered by his friends and his foes for his relief and building the temple. But there's one thing about Herod. He loved power. He imposed great taxes on his people. He resented the fact that many of the Jews thought he was a tyrant, which it sounds like he was. But here's the thing. In the last days of Herod's life, he suffered greatly from paranoia. And he turned to cruelty and fits of rage to protect his position as king. So does that kind of maybe give us a background as to why when the wise men came and they said, we're looking for the king of the Jews. In Herod's mind, he's like, that's me, dude. I'm the king of the Jews. There's not anybody else that fits that description, and neither is anybody else going to. So how do we know that that was Herod's mindset? Well, if you check into his background just a little bit closer, Herod is known to have killed many of his close associates. Did you know that? Including his wife, his mother-in-law, 2 of his sons, and 300 court officers. And probably anybody else that he thought was a threat to him or his kingdom. So Herod didn't fool around. You know, I've always thought in my mind how cruel it would be of somebody, King Herod, to kill a baby. Well, we know Herod didn't just seek to kill Jesus as a baby. There were lots of baby boys that he didn't know who they were, and he was not taking any chances. So that's who we're dealing with. And when a man like that is terrified or troubled, it's hard telling what's going to happen. So that's probably why all of Israel was troubled with him. Anybody that was disloyal to him or in any way he thought was going to be a problem for him. So being troubled by the birth of Jesus or anyone born saying they were king of the Jews, that's probably right on target for him being troubled, for him being terrified or afraid. So Herod was troubled at the thought of anyone being in charge other than his selfish self. Have we drawn any parallels? I'm not going to ask anybody to stand up and say, yeah, I'm selfish. I protect what's mine, and I'll do it at all costs. So, I just want to throw this out here a little bit, and maybe it doesn't fit your family at all, but have you noticed that possibly in your family and in your friends, it kind of seems like maybe when Christmas time comes, that's when trouble comes? Does that happen at anybody else's house or anybody else's family? Does it kind of like bring, we watch these Christmas movies where everything is just all wonderful and the whole family comes in from far and wide and they all stay in one big place and they're all just so happy and everything is just peaches and cream and everything is perfect. Is that how it is at your house? I believe that being close, maybe too close for too long, brings trouble to a lot of families. or to a lot of people. So maybe troubled might be a description of what Christmas might bring to some of our places. Not my house, but maybe yours. Maybe you're right. Now, none of us are going to say, yeah, well, it's like Christmas is a troubled time, and we got to get the right present and all the decorations. And do any of you find as you get older, it's harder to get those decorations out? And here's the reason why, because you think about who's going to put all that back. As a matter of fact, I don't even think we can even get to all that stuff. It's probably not like that at your house, but at our house, Christmas stuff, when you're done with it, you pack it, and then all year long you pack stuff in front of it. Whew. Yeah, well, anyway, it's kind of troubled. It brings up some stress just a little bit. As a matter of fact, right now at my house, there's some wreaths laying on the sidewalk of the driveway in the front yard that somebody is supposed to hang up on the windows. Now, I don't know who that somebody is. Maybe it's going to be King Herod. I don't know. It just all depends on who rears their ugly head when it's time to do it. I think it was time yesterday. I think that was a sign because they were laying, kind of like on the ground in front of where they might possibly go. Some of them are already there. If somebody could reach it, they're already there. Okay. All right. So what did Herod do? How did he react? He became not only troubled and fearful, but Herod became as artificial as an aluminum Christmas tree. Didn't he? Told those wise men, hey dudes, you go find Jesus. That'd be wonderful. You go find Jesus and then come back and tell me where he is because I want to worship him too. Now, is that not as fake as an aluminum Christmas tree? I mean, honestly, some of you might be as old as I am. I remember one year, I don't know how old I was. We always had a real Christmas tree at our house. I mean, always. One year, my dad came home with a Christmas tree. It was about this tall, and it was made out of tinsel. I mean, it was cool because I'd never seen one before like that. I mean, it was just a little, and looking back, I'm thinking my mom probably said, I'm not dragging all that Christmas decoration out, and that big. Dad always got a big, real Christmas tree, and she probably said, I'm not decorating that mess. So he gets this little tinsel Christmas tree, and here's the kicker. Do y'all remember those? You plug them in, and they had like 4 or 5 different colors of light, and it turned. And you didn't even have to decorate that tree, right? Because the light did it. The tinsel, the aluminum on the light, on the tree, when the light turned, it was different colors. And I remember thinking, this is pretty cool. But it's fake. This is not a real Christmas tree. But as a kid, it was pretty cool. I've never seen anything. Kids like innovation and things that are different and new. But even at that age, I remember thinking, I think we got cheated. Because this thing does not even smell like a pine tree. I mean, honestly. Didn't look like a Christmas tree. It didn't act like a Christmas tree. And that's really, Herod became artificial. He was fake. He put on a great theatrical presentation. I could just imagine as he was talking to those wise men, he's like, yeah, man, isn't this awesome that Jesus has been born? This is great. The King of the Jews. Yeah, let's celebrate. This is wonderful, guys. Go find him. There's nothing more interesting, nothing more important than finding Jesus so we can all worship him. Now, really, we know that's what Christmas is all about. Right? It's all about Jesus. Let me just drop this right here. If you're stressing over Christmas, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Amen. if you're like, oh, I got to do this, and I got to drag out that decoration, and I got to worry about putting it back, I've got to find the right gifts for everybody, and if you're feeling frantic and anxious and terrified and scared and all that about Christmas, you're totally focusing on the wrong thing. Because Jesus is not about all that. He's not. Like the song, Silver Bells, it's Christmas time in the city. And it's okay to be excited. We should be excited. But if we're stressing over it, if we're troubled by it, the next step is we become artificial. Some of you are going to go and say, well, the preacher called me fake today. And, it's fine with me if you want to have... We have an artificial tree at my house because you can't put a real tree up 3 months before Christmas. And it looked like anything. I mean, seriously, the house would probably burn down way before Christmas ever got there. So, yeah, we have an artificial tree at our house, but it does have lots of decoration on it. And believe me, it's been well thought out. There's been a lot of things. There's a motif. So anyway, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you using an artificial tree or artificial decorations or any of that, but I am saying if Christmas causes you to be an artificial, fake person, there's a problem. Either you don't know what Christmas is about, or you've been sidetracked and you're focusing on the wrong thing. So I said I want to bring some parallels. Herod became artificial. He really just wanted to protect himself. He wanted to protect him, selfish self, and his position, his place. He missed the whole reason for the season. Herod was troubled by Christmas and by the baby Jesus. So not everyone seeks the Savior to worship him. Now, I want to drop another question right there. Does the Christmas season cause you to want to seek Jesus and to worship him? Or does it cause you to want to be frantic and terrified and afraid? All the time, always, people like, oh, I just can't get in the Christmas spirit this year. Well, I don't know whose fault that is. And honestly, I've said that before. There's been times when I've been like, I'm not ready for Christmas. My heart's not in the right place. And what we need to understand is if we're terrified and scared and anxious about Christmas, our heart's kind of somewhere near where Herod's was. We're protecting something. It's our, we want to look good. We want to make sure should I go down that rabbit hole? All the decorations need to be perfect. The meal has to be perfect. Everything has to be a certain way. We have to do all the same, our Christmas traditions. We can't sway off of the traditions. Everything's got to happen at the same time, at the same place, the same way. And if it doesn't, then it's a disaster. Any of y'all like that? Really? And y'all have Christmas traditions, and you didn't feel like it was Christmas. It just didn't seem like Christmas this year because this didn't happen or that didn't happen or it didn't snow. We got to have snow or it's not really Christmas. Anyway, I'm just kind of like throwing out some things there. But Herod was terrified. He was afraid because he wanted to protect himself. And sometimes, I think most times, that's what we're doing. We're protecting ourselves. Even though maybe we fully realize who Jesus is and we know that celebrating Christmas is about celebrating Jesus' birth. But we don't want people to look at us and say, that's what they do for Christmas? I mean, dude, their turkey was burnt. That ever happened at your house before? One year we had the fire trucks at our house. I've got pictures. of the fire truck sitting in front of our house. We were cooking popovers in the oven. It seriously was not a big deal, but the fire alarm called the fire trucks, and we couldn't stop them. I mean, and they would not stay. They had to come all the way inside and see what was burning. Because, they couldn't leave without seeing that it was okay. But we have pictures of the fire truck sitting in front of the house. Like all of our cars sitting there, the fire truck sitting in front of the house. We heard from the neighbors about, what did y'all burn down there on Christmas Day? It was not the turkey or the ham. It was popovers. So what we're, are there any parallels between, Herod didn't want his playhouse messed up. He didn't want things changed. And for that reason, he was terrified. He was afraid that his world was going to be upset. And even church people get that way sometimes. Christian people, Jesus followers. We get ripped out of frame because we think things might change. Things might be different. Like, you might come in one Sunday into the church and all the chairs are placed around tables. Has that ever happened to you before? I mean, honestly, some people would be they'd be like, well, put them chairs back by next week. I ain't coming back. I hadn't heard anybody say that, but, there might be some people that's not come back and they're probably like, do they not know it's COVID? Well, if we kind of sit by families, you probably, whatever cooties, your family member has, you already have them anyway. So, and I'm not scared of you cooties, okay? I'm just not. That's just me. I mean, so things sometimes, okay, I'm going to move on because I can't believe I said cooties. But I did. Do what? Woo, it's Christmas time in the city. Ring-a-ling.
Preacher did cooties.
Well, I'm just going to say, the preacher does have cooties. We all do. Anyway, let's wrap this thing up. Herod missed the whole reason for the season. He was troubled by Christmas. He was literally troubled by a little baby. And here's another thing. I don't want us to miss this. It was not like Jesus was going to jump up out of the cradle and cause Herod any problems today, was it? He's a baby. But what I want us to see is that Jesus was king from day one.
Amen.
The day that Jesus was born, he was already king. And people knew it. Woo! He's my king. How about you? And I'm excited about celebrating his birthday. Even though we don't really know when that is. But I'm glad that we have a time set aside that we worship like the wise men. We need to seek during this Christmas time. It's Christmas time. We need to seek during that time to worship and to celebrate who he is. He's the king. Herod knew it. He knew his days were numbered. He knew that he was not the ultimate king. Herod the Great was not so great anymore. He was about to lose his position. As a matter of fact, he already lost it. It just didn't happen that day. So it's all about Jesus. And this is what I want us to understand. You know what? Sometimes, this has happened to me multiple times. You ever been preparing a sermon and you just kind of like run into a roadblock? Y'all ever do that? I mean, it's like you just ran head on into a rock wall. Can't think, can't pull it all together. There's a lot of things there that all need to be kind of pulled in together to make something that people can understand or you can even make sense out of. I couldn't tell you how many times I've been in that very position. And a lot of times it's in front of the refrigerator where I get illuminated. Seriously. Because, a lot of times if you run into a block, you need a snack. Right? You need something to kind of like, And then when you stop thinking about it so hard, it just comes. And I couldn't tell you how many times standing in front of my refrigerator or somewhere else, sometimes it's standing on the mower or doing something outside, the thought comes to my mind, and this has been it. There's a block and you can't make sense out of it, and here's the missing link. It's all about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. And it doesn't have to be a Christmas message. It's any message. If you're missing something and it's not making sense, and this is not just true in building a sermon, this is true in life. Maybe you get up this morning and you're like, this is just not making sense. Life is just upside down. It's not making very much sense. Well, it's all about Jesus. We just need to change our focus. We need to focus on Jesus. Because ultimately, the universe does not revolve around us. It revolves around Him. So it's all about Jesus. That's just good stuff. Y'all need to write that down in your notes, okay? Write it on your hand. Write it on the tablecloth. If that's where you're going to sit next week. Are all y'all sitting back in the same spot every time? Huh? You're breaking tradition. You got to sit in the same spot every time. But put that in your notes. And if you're not writing it down, make a mental note. It's all about Jesus. It is all about Jesus. Let's say that together on 3. 1, 2, 3. It's all about Jesus. It is all about Jesus. Now that's the thing that Herod missed. But hold on, did you know that some people are troubled by Christmas? Like I said a little bit ago, kind of alluded to that fact. Some people are fearful, terrified, and artificial, afraid of losing their selfish, self-centered position as king or queen of their universe. Now, I know it's not any of y'all. It's Aunt Flossie. Whoever. I mean, any of y'all have an Aunt Flossie? I won't use that if you do. But every family has one, and the universe revolves around them. Most families have multiples. There's more than just one. But what I'm trying to be careful to do here this morning is have you to identify, if you don't know who that person is in your family, then it's probably you. Enough said, right? Yeah, it's amen or oh me. So they're normally, and really that's what normally brings, that's what makes people fear or dread maybe going wherever it is that they have to go or coming to your place or whatever it is, because there's somebody who the universe has to revolve around them and everything about what they thought and they wanted to do or they wanted everybody else to do, or the world is just not a happy place. And we've already made the distinction that that's how Herod was. And he was like that because he was focusing on himself and he did not know much about Jesus. And he was fake and he was artificial. And I'm sure that when Christmas was over, his heart felt like an ice cube. That for that season, he was like, his heart was not very warmed. Because in his heart, it was all about him. As a matter of fact, what did he have in his heart? He had murder in his heart, didn't he? That's who Herod was. That's what he was about. He was about murder. He wanted to end the life of this little screaming thing that was going to take his position. Well, maybe not to that degree, but sometimes we're selfish enough that we're willing to sacrifice family and friends and celebration and all the sake of Christmas or whatever for what we want. Ouch. Ouch. That hurts. Hurts me. I'm usually pretty, like, I can just pretty much go with whatever. But there are some things. There's a few things. I just want to share this with you. Can you believe that on Thanksgiving, still brings a tear to my eye, my cranberry sauce sit in the refrigerator and was not touched? I ate the whole can later that day, but you have to have cranberry sauce. Has to be whole berries. It can't be that jellied stuff. But you have to have that with Thanksgiving turkey, or it was not Thanksgiving, right? Anybody else? Anybody else have to? Whole berry cranberry. I mean, I sit there with a fork and ate the whole can because it wouldn't be Thanksgiving if I didn't have it. I mean, like I said, I can go with the flow pretty much, but there are some things that I need to have happen. You might need to come to grips. Are there some things that you just got to have your way, or it ain't going to be a happy day? And maybe that's why maybe you feel troubled at the Christmas season. Willing to sacrifice friends, family, pretend, plot, plan, become as artificial as a fake aluminum Christmas tree, to stay on the throne and to have the universe revolve around you. Now, I know that's none of you. You're not that guy or that girl. So I'm going to move on past that. I'm just going to leave that right there, but it's Christmas time. If anyone or anything besides Jesus is at the center of your Christmas time, you're missing the star. You're missing the star of the show. You know, the wise men saw a star. That's how they got to where Jesus was. And I just want to leave you this morning with, at Christmas time, it's not us. It's not any of us who is supposed to be the star of the show. It's Jesus. It's all about Jesus. It's all about who He is and what He's done. And if we focus on that, I don't think we're going to be troubled at Christmas time or any other day of the year, honestly. Now, I want to drop back to Herod just 1 second. You know why Herod was so troubled? Because he didn't know Jesus.
That's right.
And I want to ask you today, do you know Jesus? Is He the center of your universe? Is He a very integral part? Is He the reason for your season? If He's not, then in just a minute we're going to have a closing song and a time where we can make decisions and choices. This is the first Sunday in December, and we're going to be talking about Christmas the whole December month. So you might as well get things figured out today. Seriously. Are you feeling like troubled or scared or terrified? Whatever might describe your feelings or your level of anxiety. If you're thinking about it, you're already worrying about it. And I've already heard people say, I'll just be glad when it's over. You heard anybody say that? I'll just be glad when it's over. Well, I'll be glad when some of this mess is over, but the time that we can spend celebrating Jesus' birthday, we shouldn't wish that time away. That's an awesome time of celebration and a time that should bring happiness and joy and peace and contentment. So if you're not feeling that, maybe you don't know who Jesus is. And there's no law against that, but there is a law against leaving it that way. Don't go through today, much less the Christmas season, not knowing that Jesus is King. So, let's go to the Lord in prayer. And in just a minute, we're going to have that time of decision making. Heavenly Father, This morning, as we look at this story about the birth of Jesus, and we think about what Christmas means to a lot of different people, Lord, we can see that for King Herod, it was a troubling time. He was fearful. He was terrified because he didn't know who you were. He didn't know Jesus. And Lord, there's a very similar comparison that we can make in our lives, not just for Christmas, but for the whole of the year of 2020. Some of us have lived in fear. Some of us have been terrified of different things, not just maybe the universe not revolving around us, but things that have happened in our universe. And Lord, you are our hope. You're our peace. You're our contentment. Lord, it's all about Jesus. So this morning I just want to, as we have this closing song and this time of decision making, Lord, if there's people in this room today, or maybe those that are watching by live stream, just don't have that peace, don't have that comfort, don't have that contentment. Lord, I pray that every one of us will make the right decision, allow you to be the king, to give you the position that you rightly hold, to let you be on the throne, to celebrate this Christmas time like we never have before. It's Christmas time, and we need to celebrate who you are. We ask this prayer now in the precious and holy name of Jesus, and for his sake. Amen.